I'd like to introduce the convener of the panel. He is an ex-resident, he's alumni, he was a chairperson of IHMA, he's currently a student, and I'm sure he'll introduce himself a little bit more than I am today. Please welcome the President of the Alumni Association, Mr. Josh Lee.
Distinguished guests, fellows, ladies and gentlemen, may I first say on behalf of the Alumni Association what an extraordinary thing we have here today, and what a pleasure it is to welcome you to the House on the occasion of the 45th anniversary.
Walk around with this microphone.
Is there something wrong with the... Sorry. Is that better? So, as I was saying, on behalf of the Alumni Association, may I first say what a pleasure it is to have you all here on the occasion of the 45th anniversary. It is a humbling experience to have been in the position of President of SUIHAA, that's the Alumni Association's acronym, how we pronounce it, to kind of immerse myself in the history and the traditions of this place, and to kind of hopefully kind of contribute my place towards towards connecting together the alumni of the House. What we're going to do today is have a bit of a discussion panel. This is fairly informal, with three panelists, whom I'll introduce shortly. Each of them are going to come up and say a few words on their visions for the future of the House, and what I think we'll do then is we'll open it up to questions from the floor, and that process will go for about half an hour or so. So without further ado, if I may introduce our first panellist, Denise North, current chair of IH Council. She was a resident from 1980 to 81. Denise. Our second panellist is the current Secretary of the Alumni Association, Mr. Dominic Ng, who was a resident from 2007 to 2009, a very distinguished senior resident, and was recently awarded a Fulbright Scholarship. Dominic. Our third panellist today is Ms. Lisa Deng, the current chairperson of IHMA. She's been a resident since 2010 and is currently studying a Bachelor of Environmental Systems. Please welcome Lisa. So I'll start off by inviting Denise, our Chair of Council, to step up to the lectern and give her visions for the future of International House. Where do you think we are going? What do you think we'll be like? Denise.
Hi, thanks Josh. I'm very conscious of the fact that we must be fast approaching the limit of how much time one person can be behind a microphone in a day, so I will keep this brief. Obviously, as many of you will know from conversations, part of our vision for International House is about the physical environment and about our plans to rebuild the House to an International House that is substantially larger for a range of very good and sound strategic reasons. I think, though, lest we get a bit preoccupied with that, it is important, of course, to say that the magic of International House is not so much about the building, but it's about the people who form it. It's about the House's mission. It's about the experiences that we all have when we're here. And I think one thing that everybody I've ever encountered who's been connected with International House or passed through International House would agree on is that it changes people's lives to be part of this experience. It certainly changed mine. We've heard from Bob and other people today that it has changed theirs as well. And I think that's a really, really, really important thing, and we are, in that sense, the custodians of something that's really, really special and very, very important. So obviously an important thing to say about the future and our vision for the House is more of that and more of the same. And we think we have an opportunity at an interesting time in history in the university and the House at the moment to offer that life-changing experience to an increased number of students and to make an even greater contribution to the general student life of the House. So that's our dream. In practical terms, our hope is that we will rebuild on this site a house that may accommodate between 500 and 600 residents, as opposed to the 100 that the house was first built with and the just on 200 that it accommodates today.
Thank you, Denise. You don't have to cut it. Dominic will now give a bit of an alumni perspective on the challenges that face the Alumni Association in the future. Dom.
So I want to speak very briefly about Well, I feel that the alumni are one of the most underutilised resources that the House has to offer. And now with 45 years of history and many illustrious people having passed through our doors and moved on to bigger and greater things, I feel that trying to get this community involved directly with the residents of the House today is one of the most important things we can do. In a way, the alumni represent people who who our residents will become. Someday they will be in that position, but the alumni today have the opportunity to help current residents get to wherever they want to be or wherever they might want to go, be it in Australia and around the world. So my vision of the future in IH is really about drawing upon the alumni we have now and bringing them back into the House more directly, allowing the residents to take advantage of their experience, of their experiences within the House and their current experiences outside of the House, their careers, the types of places they've gone, and helping residents find the types of places they want to go. I also want to briefly talk about something that's been mentioned a couple of times today, and that's really the role of Australian students here in the House. Now, I actually grew up in rural Australia, in country New South Wales. My parents emigrated here from Malaysia, and so I had to move to Sydney to go to university. And a big part of my university experience was actually being able to live in a college like this, in a city where I didn't know anyone, very far away from home, and having grown up in a very small community of about 4,000 people in the country, it's a tremendously eye-opening experience, just the whole move. And being able to share this with 200 other people who are also experiencing a new country, to be able to experience this in an open, a tolerant, and an amazingly diverse community such as International House really does make a big impact on the life of somebody who grew up in a small country town where the predominant occupations are mining or farming or growing grapes for wine, and it just broadens your horizons amazingly. So I think that it's also very important for the House to be not only an international House, but also be an Australian and international House, to ensure that international students get the opportunity to meet local students and that local students get the opportunity to meet people from all over the world. Thank you.
Finally, Lisa, hopefully you can offer us a bit of a current resident's perspective on the future of the House.
Okay, well, my visions of the House are very much linked to how I see the House at the moment. And I guess from a broad resident perspective, I'll recount some of the things that me and some of the senior residents discussed at our leadership training earlier this year about what we envisioned the House would be like. And some of the things which turned up were things like they were hoping to see a lot of interaction between people of different cultures and different groups, how they thought that International House was a place which you could be proud of later on in your life and where you could try new things without being afraid or being ashamed. And even if you don't do well, that it would be acceptable. Or another interesting point was that someone raised that it could be a place where you could simply be yourself. And I don't think many people think about that so much in this context, but I think it's very much related to this whole concept of international understanding and tolerance. Because one of the most, I think, unique things about International House is that being in this conglomerate of different nationalities and ethnicities and religious beliefs, you actually have a slightly culturally neutral zone in the sense that it's not really dominated by all the, well, it is, of course, has an Australian tinge to it above all the other cultures, but it is a more culturally neutral zone than you find almost anywhere in the world. In fact, I would almost compare it to an airport where people come and go, but maybe this is better than an airport in the sense that you actually find out who your fellow passengers are and like where they come from and where they're planning to go in their lives. So yeah, that's something that I think is really valuable about International House, and I hope to see in the future of it, and also maybe even like further on. Of course, it will probably be a bit more challenging in a house which, considering we're planning to expand the resident population by a factor of 3. So that is definitely one of the challenges, I guess, for the future International House Members Association chairperson, and I think that's in the future, IHMA will play an even bigger role in the House by organising events to bring everyone together. And I think it's really important to have a student association which does so, to create these events where everyone is invited and we can still see this intermingling and inclusion within the House. But so that's about it. Perhaps Josh would like to lead the question session.
Thank you, Lisa. So those are our panellists' initial thoughts. What I'd like to do now is perhaps open it out to the floor for any people's questions, comments, or even thoughts on the future of the House. So what we will have is we'll have a microphone kind of roving around the back of the room. I'm going to probably walk around the front couple of tables. So if our panellists would like to perhaps grab that microphone over there. I think it'll save them from having to kind of get up and get down again. Does anybody have any questions or comments for us? I think right here over the front we've got Richard Wilson.
Thanks very much. But before we get on to the sort of issues or matters three of you have discussed so far, could you just update us on where we are with the new building and how many people it's likely to hold?
Okay, yes, certainly. I'll promise to behave myself. I've been talking to Derek there. So in terms of objectives with the new building, we had some, in early 2007, we had a professional firm do a business case on the demand for accommodation and the economic viability of a building that would be about the size that I talked about, between 500 and 600 people. That was done. Architects were engaged, I think as part of that first study, to do a very broad kind of scoping of what you could put on the site, whether you could get that many people on the site. There were, in the process of that business case, there were evaluations done of the option of rebuilding what's here now and adjusting and demolishing and starting again, and the demolishing was the only viable one that came out of that. Subsequent to that, there was a further tender put out for architects to develop initial plans, and those have been completed. And I understand that project is very close to being able to lodge a development application with Sydney Council. The challenging part of the equation right at the moment is the funding and the working out how this would be funded. The university, as many similar organisations, is obviously, it's 2012, we had a global financial crisis in 2008, 2009. The university, like a lot of other bodies, had its investments suffer, and its income as a result of those investments suffered substantially. So there is a really challenging question for the university about how this is funded. There is also, I'd have to say, there have been a few sort of stops and starts along the way. In the last 2 or 3 years, the university has been reviewing its strategic approach after Michael Spence came, and there's been new management in different areas of the university. So there's been a review of strategy. There have been some strategy documents prepared in relation to the student experience and in relation to demands of student accommodation on the campus. And we're at a point at the moment where hopefully those studies and those reorganisations are coming to a point where we have a framework within which we'll be able to make the decision. The university will be able to make a decision. The funding question is not trivial. In the past, the university has been able to build infrastructure without needing to borrow very much. The university currently has committed to a lot of borrowings for a lot of teaching and research facilities, which are very big and very expensive and very important. And it is generally true that you can fund student accommodation through private means, although that has all sorts of other issues with it. We're in an extraordinary situation in International House. We're quite unique in the sense that we have a separate governance structure, but we're not a separate entity from the university, so we can't borrow without the university borrowing. This has always been true since the International House started, of course, but that seems to be a bigger challenge for the university today than it has been in the past. And so solving that question of where the money comes from is what happens next. So in terms of when might something happen, I can't tell you immediately. I can tell you that the Vice-Chancellor remains very, very, very committed to International House and its future. I can tell you that the Deputy Vice-Chancellor student experience for students, Derek, who's here today, also is very committed to the House and to getting more student accommodation on campus, and International House is seen as a very important part of that. But there are some. We're in a bit of a rocky period at the moment in terms of getting a resolution and being able to go forward.
Approximately how much is it going to cost?
Best part of 100 mil, so 80, 90-ish.
We've got a question from up the back.
I just wanted to know whether there is a definite, whether there is a realistic hope that you will be able to sustain roughly 50% Australian-born and overseas-born. I might have missed something earlier, but having been a resident in the House near the beginning, I saw this as really absolutely critical, and I know that directors throughout all the time have really tussled with this really difficult question. If indeed it is not viable, that will be a pity, because the bigger numbers means a bigger problem in terms of imbalance. Thank you.
Correct. Sorry to hog this, but so when I was here 80-81, I think we had roughly 50% Australian students and international students, and that was a bit of a guideline. Formally, I can tell you that the guideline internationally for international houses is between 25 and 50% local students. I think International House here some years ago, I think our low point for local representation, if you like, was around about 11%. I think we are now towards 20%, above 20%. 55, so out of just on 200, thanks Katie. So we're over the 25% now. I'm not sure that an ongoing 50% is necessarily realistic in the current environment, and there are a couple of reasons for that. You've heard, IH always does very well, I think, with getting students from regional parts of Australia, and we've heard a lot of emphasis about that today. A lot of Australians, though, as you know, don't go away to go to university. A lot of Australians culturally stay at home to go to university. So it makes it a bit of a challenge. The second thing is that the vast majority of Australians who go to college for university go to college only in their first year as a first-year undergraduate. We want to maintain the other sorts of balances that we have in International House, which are about the age group and the balance between undergraduates and postgraduates. Until some years not too far distant, we actually had a policy of not accepting first-year undergraduates, and that was about maturity and about contribution and about the sort of culture that we wanted in the House. We do have first-year students now, and I'm sure that we will continue to, but where the biggest pool of your potential local students are first-year undergraduates, and you've got other balances to take into account, maybe we won't get back to the 50%. But I absolutely think everybody agrees that sound representation of local students is really, really important for the experience that the visiting students come here for. Yeah.
I might just throw quickly to Lisa for a brief comment. What do you think on the current mix of residents in the House?
Well, I guess since I came here in 2009, I've never seen it as 50% Australian college, so I wouldn't know about that experience. And I guess to have 50% Australian is a lot better for the international students to integrate into the culture here. So if that's your vision, that's definitely a good option to go. At the same time, I think there are still things to value about having also a large proportion of international students, or a high percentage of them, if they're from different places. Because what happens is that I think that when I came here, I always thought of IH as a culture on its own. It kind of develops its own unique, like I said, culturalist culture, which is a mixture of everything. And I think there's something to value in that as well. So it really depends on what people think the aims of the House should be.
Question over here.
One of the things that concerns me a great deal about the Australian content of the House is the cost. It is just overwhelmingly too expensive for many Australians. And I'm thinking In particular, I work with young refugees, and I can think of two students that are currently at Sydney University. One is a refugee from Iraq who did amazingly well in his HSC and got 80. He would have got a UATAL score of 80. He desperately wants to be a doctor and hope to do that through get in through the back door through science. He currently lives in Liverpool and he commutes here. And in order to sustain the costs of coming here, he has now had to take up security work in Lithgow, which he does 1 or 2 days a week over the weekend. And what I'm thinking of is that we have, and I'm talking here refugees, but I mean the same sort of thing applies to our Australian Aboriginal population. And I feel, is there a way of making this wonderful opportunity available to all the disenfranchised people that are here in Australia who could make, and who will make, I am sure, because the kids I'm talking about are amazing, because it takes up to 7 years to develop full language proficiency in the second language. And these kids are coming on, this particular boy is coming on to about 5 years, and to be at that level at this stage, he's extraordinary. He's the equivalent of a Fulbright scholarship person, considering he didn't go to school in Iraq because the place was being blown up at the time. So it's the cost. It's wonderful that there'll be one scholarship, but is there a way of using the money to just reduce the cost, means testing it or something like that? I don't know. Anyway, I just throw that. I know International House can't be everything to every group in the, and you have to prioritise. But it's just something that keeps, I see all the refugees that I'm working with from Afghanistan and Iraq in particular, and then the African countries, they'd like to be a part of things like this.
So I guess this is kind of an issue that not only affects International House, but also I think more broadly the whole university and higher education sector. So equality of access to education is something that different institutions reach kind of different levels of achievement at. When I first came to university, my family supported me for the first few years of living in International House until I was able to support myself. I feel very strongly that university shouldn't be just available, and the experience of a place like International House shouldn't just be available to people who have that option, and that it should be available to people like refugees who've come to Australia to find a better life for themselves and have worked incredibly hard to do so. But that being said, it's also incredibly difficult to balance that with the actual costs, and this happens across every single university. I personally think that a lot of the impetus for this needs to come from programs across the whole academic sector. So whether it's financial support, more direct support for it from federal and state governments, or whether it's a coordinated effort that all the universities undertake, I think it's definitely something that needs a broader approach rather than a kind of individual place by place process, because you simply won't have the reach that you could achieve. You might be able to have something that affects a few students, but you can't make the impact across all of the students who fit into this category without a broader process.
Okay, we've got a question here from Bob.
Well, an observation, then maybe a question or encouragement. First of all, when I stayed here last year, the one thing that I noticed most different about the house was that I would be sitting at a table and half of the people who were there that I wouldn't have thought of as Australian when I was here in 67, 68 were Australian. And this is a whole nother layer of internationality that the house offers. And it blew my mind the first couple breakfasts to be sitting there, and I'd go back to my room and I'd think, well, it's not, you know, people like Brian and David and George and Richard, you know, who you could easily identify as Australians previously. It's a whole new mix of Australians, and I really think it's great the House is doing that. I hope they include it, and I think that may somewhat mitigate maybe some of the other problems or potential problems. The second thing, I really want to encourage the group that put on the party yesterday, the young alumni, because for many years when I've come back, this is my 7th trip back to Australia, many times I'd come back and we'd have an alumni thing, and this is in no way to denigrate the people who put it on, but the same people were putting on year after year. All of a sudden yesterday, none of those people were involved. We were just enjoying and drinking, you know, and you young alumni were doing it. And that is really the future of the House, to have not only mixtures of people, continuing students, but to have an emerging set of leadership in young alumni. So I really applaud that, and I'm hoping that's not just a flash in the pan, but it's a long tradition that you and Josh and others are putting together. So I really appreciated that.
Thank you.
Anyone on the panel would like to very brief comments on that?
Thank you. I wasn't going to comment on Bob's contribution. Thank you, Bob. But I just wanted to go back to the cost issue and the access issue a little bit. And I think, so a couple of things. It is actually, the fees at International House are cheaper than any other college on campus today. That doesn't make them accessible to someone who hasn't got that much money. But we're very, very conscious of any of our plans for the future to maintain access. So a few things that need to be done about that. Scholarships, absolutely more and more scholarships. The other thing is, when we briefed the consulting firm to do the business case, we said that you should assume that there are a number of rooms, and I don't know if we said 10 a dozen or whatever, that to put aside where assume no revenue for those rooms, because they will need to be provided to people who can't pay. Generally, we hope that anything we do keeps the fees at a reasonable level. But I think the better strategy than trying to keep the cost way down for everyone is to, you know, charge people who can pay the market rate, and have a really good and sophisticated and ever-increasing scholarship program. And it can be a broad range of scholarships. There's the ones that we've talked about today, obviously in Graham's name. We talked to the Vice-Chancellor about programs specifically for postgraduate Indigenous students. In many cases, when you want to put those sorts of scholarships together, you want to put them together with the university giving the tuition scholarship, and sometimes with a faculty who's actually going to support that person, and with refugee Australians and other people as well. It's something that is very important to all of us that we want to work on.
We've got a question here from Nick Stewart, and after that I think we probably only have time for one more, and I'd like to maybe open it up to a more recent alumnus or even a current resident of the House. So we'll have this question first.
Thanks. Nick Stewart, 79, as a very young ingenue, and in the early 80s as a somewhat more sophisticated person. Or Graham will disagree with that. But what I'd like to say is, initially, as a typical conservative person, I was horrified, utterly horrified, when Denise came up with this idea of making the House larger. I thought we had our own little ghettos. Why did you have to have larger ghettos? But I now realise that I was completely and utterly wrong. It's not the number of people that it seems to me makes a difference. It's the way in which they integrate. And I think by opening up the opportunity to more people to actually have this experience, those who want to can participate and really gain a great deal out of it. I think the question that I have is that I've got no doubt that enlarging the House will be really marvellous, but I'm wondering, are there any plans at the moment to have more of a program so that actually being here would not simply rely on people sitting together at tables, but that they could instead have a bit of a program that would give people more of an opportunity to get together?
Well, currently inside the House, we the International House Members Association, which is our student, kind of like our student council. We do organise a lot of events during the semester, which everyone is welcome to attend, and there's something happening almost every week. So we have something of like a framework already in place to make sure that it doesn't just become another like apartment block, that it actually is still a community. But it's just, I suppose, in the future when there's 600 residents, just the scale of what we're doing and the size of the committee is just going to have to go up by a lot more. But I'm sure that when you have 600 people, as long as they get off to a good start, that there'll be a lot of people who, out of 600 people, there'll be a lot of people who want to be involved. And I'm sure that the association will also receive a decent amount of funding to be able to coordinate the activities to bring everyone together.
And just to briefly add on to that, I mean, so I was a senior resident for my last 2 years in the House, and something that we've always been very conscious of, and IHMA and the senior residents today, is ensuring the greatest possible diversity of events. Having events that reflect the different cultures in the House, celebrations of the different festivals that people of different ethnicities celebrate, acknowledging different milestones, all that sort of thing, to really provide an event that everyone in the House can go to and have a cultural experience, whether or not it's from your own ethnic background. So that's something that's very much kind of in the forefront of planning when these things are put together, both from the House and from the residents' point of view.
Okay, well, we've got one question over here, and then probably one last one.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm alumni 1970. And you know very well that 1970 is a landmark date for Cambodia. During those days, we have, thanks to the Colombo Plan Fellowship, we have more than 5 people here in this day. And today I'm alone. So looking back, we see that, you know, only that year can send us Cambodian teachers to come over here to study. And all of my friends left because of that event. Some say that coup d'etat, others may say great historic event. But anyway, that is the landmark that changed from 1,500, you know, kingdom into a republic. And now we go through all 5 different regimes in order to go back to kingdom again. Today, I'm here to be some sort of kingdom and reborn kingdom here in front of you. That by looking back to that, I just want to change a bit of the atmosphere of your vision, but myself is to looking back a bit behind the vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was wondering whether anyone, maybe from the alumni, would like to give a bit of thoughts on, I guess, the role of the House in this regard.
So, I mean, one of the most amazing things about working with the Alumni Association is just getting to hear some of these stories from all over the world, and I really just want to encourage you know, everyone in the room who's been a resident or been involved in the House in some way, that we do love hearing from you, and we do love hearing the stories, the people that you've met in the House and gone on to remain friends with, the things that you go on to do, because it really means a lot to us. It shows us, you know, the value, the magic, I guess, of the House and the people that you can get to know here. And also, it's fantastic to know that you want to share your experiences back with us. And so, yeah, I'd really like to say thanks for sharing that. That was really nice. And to encourage people to get in contact with us. There are some forms over there, I think, with our details. If you have something something special, please let us know. We love to hear anything and everything from you.
And unfortunately, I'm being kind of constantly told by Jessica that the time is short. So we have our last question here from Jonathan.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Tanko. I am the chairperson from last year. I actually wanted to address your question because it was about the expansion of the house and how things are going to change with triple the number of people. And as Denise said, it's not so much the building as the people in it that form the culture of International House. And when we expand, I think that for Lisa and I and any of the past chair people, Josh, we believe that IHMA as the student organization will be the heart of where that culture is going to come from and how things are organized. And I know that we've, at least my exec committee last year, we worked hard with the future of the expansion almost happening last year to work out how IHMA is going to change in its roles and become more influential and expand to be able to run a house with 600 people in it. And I think that we'll be able to do that. And I think that IHMA, in that role with that many people, will be able to still keep the community together and still have those vibes that everybody's been talking about all night, even with the sprawling, beautiful building. Yeah, thank you.
We might take some closing thoughts from our panelists on the culture and the vibe of the house going into the future. So we'll start with you, Denise.
Well, I think obviously, I think today it's clearly alive and well, and I think it will always continue to be. It is a remarkable formula for an organisation with a remarkable mission, and it is always populated by fairly remarkable people, and this gives you an extraordinary result, and think will continue to give an extraordinary result and an extraordinary experience as we grow.
And I think that the things that the residents go on and achieve, I mean, the union recorder that Justice Kirby was holding up earlier was littered with names and names that have gone on and achieved incredible things. So I think the alumni of the house will benefit enormously from a larger pool. Will allow people to meet ever more people from ever more backgrounds and ever more ethnicities who go on and create the future. And I think that's incredibly exciting.
Okay. I just realized a link I didn't really quite make clear in my previous speech. And that was just that I said that International House was a place where you could simply be yourself, and how that was related to this international environment. And I think, and as I was saying, with this like unique IH culture, what happens is because it doesn't really have the customs or norms or traditions of a single place, and it doesn't really have any that are so clearly defined, that way you can kind of just do your own thing without really the expectations of a single society, since everyone here comes from a different kind of society. So there's no longer this general sense of this is right, this is wrong. And I think that's very liberating, and it's one of the good things about living in this place, to have that opportunity maybe once in your life. So that's just a statement about what I think about is the community, and I really hope that this house is as successful in the future as it has been for the past 45 years.
That's all we've got time for today, I'm afraid. So please join me in thanking our three panellists this afternoon. And we've got Jessica to give a couple of closing words.
Wait, just one moment. Also, we're planning to do a photo with the previous chairpersons of the past that are still present after Jessica's speech. So if you could stick around later.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you to the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, before we end the formal part of today's celebration, I would like to make a few announcements. Many of our alumni were unable to be here today, but some have sent their apologies and messages, and these are just a few of them. Michael Huang from Singapore. Alan and Irene Moss send their very best wishes for the event. Andrew Lowenthal, a 1967 resident in London, sends his best wishes to the current residents and congratulates SUIHAA for keeping former residents up to date with developments. Fanny Manikaki Nikolandis and family in Greece. Dennis and Layla Schatz from Washington in the US. Claudia Morales from Queensland. Peter Simpson in WA. Richard Waterhouse, New South Wales, and Michael Brown from Canada. And Michael sent me this lovely email, and I wouldn't mind reading it if you can bear with me. Good day, he says. I do wish that I was able to attend the celebrations this weekend, but unfortunately I can't be there. But I'm certainly thinking of all that we were able to come out and support IH on this occasion. I made it back for the festivities held during the Olympics, which was a great reunion. If there is an opportunity to post or read such cables, please pass along my greetings and amazing memories of one of my year in IH in 1977. I often describe my third-year experience status at 21 as the most pivotal year of my life, and in the large part because it was an amazing because of the amazing lifelong friends I met at IH. A special mention to Mrs. Smiley and Bubbly, those of you who know, who met us every day, Pauline Kennedy. IH also gave me a tremendous appreciation for the unique cultures, starting with my roommate, Peter Donkor from Ghana, to all the different nationalities represented. I would like to say we initiated the flag ceremony that year by going around to all the consulates and embassies for their national colours, which we hung in the rotunda, but I could be mistaken. When one travels, the flag is often such an important link to home, and if I ever win the lottery, I would like to fund an area in IH property where all the flags of the residents fly each day to show what nations are represented at IH. Regards to all, and raise a glass and toast a tremendous institution I will remember forever. I'm sorry, Graham, to have blown the food budget on peanut butter and honey, but all the residents seem to adopt it as their comfort food over Vegemite or beet and onion sandwiches. So, to Michael Brown in Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be an opportunity shortly to have photos taken with groups, those of you who wish to have photos taken. There's also a video going around if you'd like to leave a video message to our alumni. We hope to publish these messages on our website for all of our alumni who couldn't make it today. For alumni, there are alumni pins on your name tags as a souvenir, and also today's program for you to take away. There's also an IH pen for everyone. There will be an opportunity to purchase from the front office a copy of the History of International House and the Rosalie McCutcheon books. Proceeds from these sales will go towards the House and SUIHAA scholarships. And you can also purchase the IH jersey that Graham got for his birthday, so you can all have one. Forms for the Graham de Graaf Scholarship are available on the desk over there, and I would encourage each and every one of you to get behind this fund and support residents for the future. And tours of the house are available for those who would like a tour, and they will be available from the front office. I also know that there's another person in the house who's celebrating a birthday, and she was born on the 1st of April. Is Bruty here? There she is. Stand up, Bruty. Bruty's birthday is today, everyone. Happy birthday. I would like to thank the following people. Graham de Graaf for being born. Loris and Deborah de Graaf for their suggestions and support in organising the 45th anniversary events around Graham's birthday. We did conspire, didn't we? Yes. The SUIHAA committee for an amazing cocktail party yesterday. Thank you to Karen and Josh and Dom and Sue-Ann and all of those people who organised it. To Brian Farmer and David Shannon for their enormous efforts in setting up the Graham de Graaf Residential Scholarship. To the IH staff, everyone who helped out, but especially to Les Nofke, our catering manager, who put all of this event together. To Beverly Fox for organising flowers, to Ruth Shatford for making the wonderful birthday cake, to all our special guest speakers and performers, and all our alumni and guests for being here today. And shortly we're going to have some entertainment from one of our residents, Edwin Spark. Edwin is from Victoria and is a third-year resident of the house studying his Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Music degree. Edwin will be accompanied by Bo, and they will play selections from Mendelssohn's Op. 19, Lieder ohne Wörter, Songs Without Words, as transcribed for oboe and piano by David Walter. Lastly, I just have a few words I'd like to say. It's almost been 5 years since the 40th anniversary in the magnificent Great Hall, with its beautiful statues, portraits, stained glass windows. The Wool Room is not quite as impressive as the Great Hall, but certainly it looks great today. And as I said to our new residents at orientation this year, it's not a 5-star hotel, but we do have a 5-star community. IH is all about the exchange of cultures among different people and developing a greater understanding and friendship among different cultural groups. The house has fulfilled all its expectations, visions, hopes since its founding. We are a symbol of the university's commitment to international understanding and cooperation. We are an example of how the university residents should be, and we are supporting the university's strategic plan in its promotion of international fraternity. In the words of Peter Simpson from the 40th anniversary, living at IH taught him tolerance, understanding, compassion, and what he called flexibility. It was the contact with others from around the world that was so incredibly meaningful. That contact, together with the wide range of events and activities of the house that its residents provide, creates the spirit of the house. It is the contact with a diverse group of people which challenges residents in their thinking and in their belief systems, and prepares them in a special way to be global citizens. Our residents are future leaders. They will face many global challenges such as sustainable development and climate change, global ethics, peace and conflict, just to name a few. The quality of the education they receive at the university is crucial. The quality of education they receive from International House is also crucial, and in some way, aspects essential to be a successful global leader. At the University of Sydney, the student population is made up of approximately 134 different countries. My vision, as is the Council's vision for International House, is to expand our facilities in order to offer more places to more students from more countries, to create an even greater diversity among International House residents, and in turn provide more challenges and opportunities to grow both personally and academically. A larger International House will mean more resources to enable us to expand our services to residents, including more scholarships and bursaries, and the capacity to provide alumni with more benefits, networks, communications, worldwide reunions, and future opportunities to support the House. Our focus for the future should not just be on the bricks and mortar, but on the resident students who come to live at International House. It is the International House experience that needs to be considered first and foremost in the building of International House of the future, as it is the residents of that house that will become alumni of the future. If they have a wonderful experience, they will continue to support the House as you do today, and they will support the House's mission of international understanding and friendship. In celebrating the 45th anniversary, we should look to the future of International House and work together in maintaining and spreading the spirit of International House to the future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for being here today and for sharing the 45th anniversary celebration of International House and for your continued support. The 40th anniversary was a great success. The 45th anniversary was also a success. The problem now is how do we top it off for the 50th anniversary? And that's my challenge for the future. I look forward to seeing you again and, of course, the 50th anniversary. Thank you.